gentlemen. Thank you for coming out this evening. It's our first of our fall season of these roundtable talks. We shut down for the summer because of the weather and people on vacation and so on. Tonight we have Walter Foss, one of our docents here. He's been here about 6 or 7 years now. One of our top men in that field. A great career behind him, as you saw in the newsletter the other day. I won't dwell on it too much. One thing I'm always impressed with Walter, the number of hours he's flown. He's got over 33,000 hours. If you just divide that out, that's over 2 years in the air. That's something that not even the astronauts don't do that. But it's quite remarkable indeed. Anyway, Walt was talking on the air refueling. This is the permanent side of it. He will take you right up to the present day. He's flown tankers. He's flown out of C-141, which was just repainted in the last month. That's the actual plane he flew, and the colors he flew. It was colored that way when he flew it, so it's taking you back quite a bit. Anyway, it's not bad turnout considering we don't get our free advertising anymore in the newspaper, and I'm not always glad to see good turnout on these occasions. So without any more ado, we'll turn it over to Walter and sit back and I'll enjoy this one. Thank you.
Good evening, welcome to the March Museum. Eleanor. Ken, you finally got me to do this. I was here over 5 years and you've been asking me to do this, and I said I'll just fill in when you can't get anybody. Question for you. I've sat in on one or two of these and I've recognized some of the faces of the regular group. How many of you heard my friend Larry Packer a few years ago, the Blue Angel spoke here? You know, here. I got him here. And best co-pilot I ever had at Alaska Airlines. And he's now a captain at Alaska Airlines. So we're going to talk about air refueling tonight. So I'm going to put on my tanker hat and try to keep everything in regards to air refueling. I'm going to talk about why we do air refueling, and this is very appropriate because here at March Field is a tanker base, and it was a 22nd Bomb Wing during the entire Cold War. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the Cold War, because that's really what the KC-135 and the KC-97, which we'll talk about, were built for. Briefly, my tanker experience. I was an instructor pilot here at March, actually the chief of training in 1980. And I conducted a lot of the training for the tankers and taught a lot of the wing instrument ground courses, etc. In the 70s here, it was very different. The traffic pattern here at March was full of B-52 B models, KC-135 A models, the noisiest airplane on record, by the way, because of their engines. We had C-141s from Norton coming over here in the traffic pattern. We had F-4s from 163rd. So this traffic pattern was very busy, and guess what? In the late 70s, we had a smog problem here. The visibility never got over 3 miles, especially in the summer. You would not see those mountains out there. And VFR minimums for light airplanes are 3 miles, so we always feared a mid-air with these jets, low altitude and traffic pattern, where all the light airplane pilots trying to find where they are, because you couldn't see the higher you went, so it was a real problem. And of course, if you lived underneath the flight path, you didn't like that. It was very noisy. Nowhere near what we have today, very little traffic. So let's start out. How did air refueling get started? First question is why? And the answer is quite obvious. You don't have to stop for fuel. Airplanes have a limited amount of fuel, and it takes a lot of time, a lot of stress on the airplane too, by the way, gear cycles to take off and land. So if you can accomplish your mission without landing, then you've achieved something. The very first air refueling started in 1921. Now remember, World War I ended in 1918. Hey, that's on March Field. called Alexander Field started also, so it's a very 100-year-old field. So we had biplanes back then. The actual first air refueling was in 1921 with 2 biplanes, DH-4Bs, which those are up there. A wing walker, not a backpack, it was in the front, a sack full of fuel, and he walked from one airplane to another, transferred the fuel. So that is the first air refueling. And then obviously, things cutting out. Obviously, in 1923, they hooked the hose up and got a little more logical and then transferred fuel that way. Right here in Southern California is where all this was conducted, and in the San Diego area, and they actually set a record of 37 hours flying with the DH-4B, which is a World War I spin-off. Believe it or not, then we went into World War II. Nobody did air refueling during that time. It's not really clear why, but air refueling was put on hold, kind of, during the entire World War II. I guess we could have used it in the Pacific, because that's what the battle in the Pacific was all about, to get air fuels get closer and closer to Japan. But we didn't do that. So the very first operational air refueling tanker was the KC-97. This was an L model up here. And it was operational in 1950. Did you know that the KC-97 is actually a modified B-29 bomber? Now we have both of these outside of our museum, KC-97 and B-29. And if you're not familiar, B-29 is what got the 2 atomic bombs in World War II in the Pacific in 1945. So you have the same multi-cylinder Wasp engines, little modifications, a little more horsepower. And you had a double-decker fuselage, and you can see that here. However, you'll notice the tail shape and the landing gear was down. It will be the same as the B-29. In the cargo area, the KC-97 was fuel tanks. The fuel that it burned was aviation fuel located in the wings. Aviation fuel is like in the car, refined gasoline. Jet fuel was kerosene, unrefined. So they're different. And the fuel with the KC-97 offload, it could not burn, unlike the current tankers today, where it's all jet fuel. KC-97 is a propeller-driven airplane, even fast for its time. However, it was no competition for a jet fighter. So the fighters, and mainly the F-84s, were the very first jet fighters in Korea. We did air refueling in Korea with this airplane. They had to slow down to almost the stall speed, while the KC-97 is going max speed or close to it. So the speeds didn't match. And very often, they would have to refuel in a descending motion called a toboggan. We've actually done that in KC-135 to airplanes that were power limited, toboggan. So they still use it today, particularly with the A-10 Warthog. Now, KC-97 had the flying boom. See here? And believe it or not, they did it right the first time, because the current boom systems on the KC-135 and the KC-10 are very similar. Doug Berger, you all know Doug? Works here in the Museum and Restoration. He was a boom operator on the KC-97 and the KC-135. He actually was an alert manager here at the 22nd Bomb Wing when I was here in the late 70s, 80s. And he told me that the boom pod of the KC-97 only had one map. So that means the boom operator lays down on the map, he has a stick, very similar to today, and he would fly the boom and conduct air refueling on the radio with the receiver. One of the problems with that is, how do you learn how to do it? You got to have an instructor that can reach the controls. That's true when you teach someone to fly, right? They have flight controls that take over. Well, that's true with learning to fly a boom because it's very similar to an airplane. So the instructor had to lay on top of the student. And there were all men back there. Today, about a third of all boom operators in KC-10, 135 are women. Maybe more. There's a lot of women boom operators today, so I don't know how that would work. The 135 today has 3 spots, so the instructor can go lay to the right or the left. And we would often take passengers and observers to observe in air refueling. KC-97 gave way to the KC-135, A model. Around 1955, first jet tanker. Now, KC-135 is one of the most fascinating airplanes ever built. It's actually in the top 10 of aviation wonders because the prototype of it was called the Boeing 367-80. Only one were built. And it was a prototype for the KC-135 tanker, which General Curtis LeMay wanted to replace the KC-97 for the orbit mission, and the Boeing 707 airliner. It was, the Boeing 707 is the precursor to all the Boeing jets today. I flew the 737, they're all of similar design, Boeing 6757, 777, of course they're all computerized today. So it's a very important airplane. How many of you have been to the Reagan Library? Okay, that's the DC-137, that's a 707. Derivative of this plane. The big difference is large airplanes back then required a flight engineer position. The 135 in the military did not have a flight engineer, which meant the workload for the pilots was very high. Had a navigator and a boom operator. Now, there's been a lot of models of this. We have the EC-135, electron curtain, the RC-135, reconnaissance. Just like the RC-135 used to work in tandem with the SR-71 to get the enemy to turn on their radars and then record all the frequencies. So the SR-71 and the RC-135 flew simultaneous missions to work on one another. The A model, because I was an instructor in it, was the most underpowered large jet of all time. It had converted fighter engines, J-57, which only put out 12,000 pounds of thrust with water injection. That was good for 2 minutes. You better get the flaps up, because they will be behind the power curve with only 9,000 pounds of thrust. So do the math. It's a 300,000 pound airplane with 40,000 pounds of thrust. Modern jets today are 20,000 pounds of thrust each. So this plane is half as powerful as the current 737 airliner. That's why it took 10,000 feet to get airborne. This runway out here at March is over 12,000 feet, just under. And all your SAF planes, including B-52s, were very power limited. Now the B-52 G and D, we have to be in a museum, also had these engines with water injection. Except they had 8 of them, and they weighed about 480,000 pounds. So they were in a little better spot. Now the primary purpose of the KC-135 and the KC-97 was alert. The Cold War. Cold War started around the Berlin airlift, 1948-49. First test of the Cold War was Korea, 1950-53. And then Vietnam. Russia had nuclear weapons. The United States had nuclear weapons. So the alert of the triad of nuclear submarines, ICBMs, and alert bombers with their associated tankers. The tankers had a full alert, which I did here in March, 7 days out of every 3 weeks. It really got old. You're like firemen waiting for the fire to happen. And basically, the airplane was topped, and it was B-52s loaded with nuclear weapons here at March throughout the Cold War. And when the klaxon went off, you went to your airplane and started engines with cartridges. You just pushed a button with a battery, and it spun your engine up. It smoked a lot, but it was very quick. And then they decided to put in more cartridges to do it a little quicker, but the problem was people started passing out because the exhaust gas of the cartridge was ammonium cyanide. That's what they use in the gas chamber. If you get a whiff of that stuff, you see stars. But again, alert was the primary mission. They started alert with the KC-97 in the 50s in airborne alert called Chrome Dome. Giant lamps where those bombers would be airborne, and the tankers would air refuel them in an orbit, and they were all over Europe. We did have one nuclear accident in 1966 off the coast of Spain where they lost nuclear bombs. And they've had 2 incidences of that, and that's why we don't do airborne alert again. Now the Cold War is over. Ended when the Berlin Wall came down in 1990. It actually took 2 years. However, it was winding down, and March Field here was one of the first SAT bases to come off nuclear alert. However, our ICBMs and the submarines have always been on alert, even today. So the Cold War didn't really quite end. We've always been on alert for that. That is the KC-46 Pegasus, the blue tanker, converted Boeing 767 airliner. The worst procurement disaster of the military. Started many years ago and cost overruns. It is just about to come online today. Rumors are they're going to be based here in March. They had a lot of problems with this plane. I won't get into those. But that's coming next. The KC-10, we only made 66 of them. Best deal the United States ever made, because they took an airliner and converted it into a tanker very easily and quickly. But they only made 66 of them. These were very active in Desert Storm, where they supported B-52s out of Diego Garcia. They can handle a lot more fuel. All right, I'm going to show 2 videos. First one. You're going to see an A model in action, and you're going to see some of the alert. You almost missed the F-16s taking off. Wrong one. Wrong one. First one.
Oh, the other one?
Yeah. You see that?
You know, I don't suppose there are many things in this world that are indispensable, but this old bird comes about as close to it as you can get for an airplane. It's a KC-135 Stratotanker, and it's used for refueling aircraft in flight. Oh, we also use it in SAC for carrying cargo or passengers, and sometimes as an airborne command post. But when I say indispensable, I'm thinking of it mostly as a refueler. I'm Sergeant Novak, and I'm a boom operator on these KC-135 tankers. I work with a pilot, a co-pilot, and a navigator. We're the whole crew, just the 4 of us.
Okay, preparation for contact, checklist. Roger, preparation for contact, altimeter setting.
Set 2992.
Set co-pilot 2992. Stabilizer trim.
Check. I'm going back now to refuel an F-4C fighter. Come on, I'll show you how we do it.
guidance. Doesn't apply radio contact.
Pilot, have receiver at 2 miles. Boom, coming down.
Radio contact.
Okay,
Hose 64, Shag 49, do you read?
Like I was saying a while ago, these tankers are almost indispensable for today's air operation. You take aircraft deployment, for example. You know how we got our fighter aircraft over there in the Korean War? We had to dismantle them, send them over there by ships, and then reassemble them when they got there. It took months. But today, with aerial refueling, we can send fighters any place in the world in a matter of hours. Like we did when we sent that squadron of F-106s over in Korea right after the Pueblo incident.
Most of the fighters and reconnaissance aircraft involved in the Vietnam War flew over there with the aid of air refueling, and they fly back the same way when they're due for overhaul in the States. On any given day, aside from mass deployments, there are always tankers and fighters going both ways over the pond.
What the tanker has done for us is that we are no longer at the mercy of fuel duration. Commanders in Europe or the Far East know that the capabilities of the tanker can be used to build up their forces in a matter of hours. Now that's important because in this world things move so fast today that when you need aircraft, if you don't get them right away, you can be in serious trouble.
As far as bombers are concerned, they can get to most bases without air refueling. However, with refueling, we give them unlimited range and save precious time. So we are able to send B-52s non-stop and quickly to Guam from the U.S. on a regular basis. Many of the B-52s that go on bombing raids in Vietnam operate out of Guam. It's a long haul from Guam to Vietnam and back, and there's no way to complete the mission without air refueling.
The B-52 and the 135 are designed to work together. They give us our global capability. They can keep up with us well enough to refuel us at our airspeeds and altitudes. They can refuel us at night and in all kinds of weather conditions.
There's a saying in the Air Force that flying is 90% boredom and 10% sheer unadulterated terror. Well, ground alert duty is a little less on the terror side and a little more on the boredom side. Well, we've got our work to do, mission planning, things like that. But when we pull alert duty, we're pretty well confined to the alert shack. Of course, we find other things to do. Some guys sleep. Others work crossword puzzles. Me, I like to read. However, there are the more energetic. We have one boomer around here that has so much energy he does all the gardening around the building while he's waiting for the klaxon horn to sound. our bombers and tankers would be off the ground long before they could be hit. The tankers would go along to make sure the bombers had enough fuel to reach their targets and return. the bombers couldn't make it to their long-range targets and back without air refueling. The same thing applies to fighters that bomb Vietnam targets from bases in Thailand. These birds are so loaded down with bombs, they use a lot of fuel just getting off the ground. So after they're airborne, about 15 minutes out, we top them off with 5,000 or 6,000 pounds of fuel. It makes you feel pretty important to see them come up. You give them fuel, you see them go away, and you know you're a part of it. It makes you feel even better when one of them comes at you after a strike, and he's got holes in him, and he's dripping fuel, and you're trying to keep him alive and get him back to his base. After it's over, you know you've saved an airplane, and you've saved a pilot.
We did that in my early years in the tanker when I was at Barksdale, and then they decided it was kind of useless, so they did away with it. Today, the tanker crews are like airline crews. They have headsets, no parachutes, so I want to point that out. And the way you would get out of 135 is in the cockpit, same way you came in, there's a yellow handle spoiler that puts a piece of metal down, and you hold on to the handle, and you basically fall. You just let go, facing aft, and that's how you would get out. It's only been used once when a 135 ran out of gas, basically doing transition work in a Midwest base, so they did away with it. Let's see, the other thing we saw, the alert response. Each crew had a truck. Bomber had more of a crew. Tanker only had 2 pilots, navigator, and boom operator, and that's what I did. So let's say you're at the BX, the whole base would have that klaxon system and a red light. And if you were driving anywhere on base, you had to pull over like it was an ambulance. And it was a serious ticket to violate that by the security police. So alert crews drive to their airplanes, get in there, put the battery on, pop the cartridges, and get going. You have to be from the BX or anywhere on base across the whole line. That means rolling for takeoff in 15 minutes. And that was heavily enforced. Every crew, when you pull alert, you were exercised. That klaxon actually went off, and you didn't know whether it was real or not until you decoded a secret message through the radio system, and there were backups for that. And virtually everything about alert was classified on the different postures, which we all can go online and read about it. And I was in a real alert in Barksdale, in Shreveport, Louisiana. However, the klaxon didn't go off. And there's, you have a little radio, and it would come over from the command post. Crews report to aircraft do not start engines. The klaxon by itself meant go to your airplane and start the engines and wait for further instructions. However, if they want you to pull alert in your airplane, you would live on that airplane, and I did for 2 days. And the reason was Barksdale is on the Gulf Coast, and they had some Soviet submarines that were spotted there for a long time. And what that means is they're more of a threat to you, and the timing had to be closer. So there were some actual alerts. The Cuban Missile Crisis put us in a very high DEFCON also. They pulled cockpit alert also. Yes?
Were all those bombers and refuelers taken off from a single...
I know you. It's called a MITO. You'll notice it's called free floating. Nobody got a clearance to taxi. They started their engines and they filled in the gap. And it's actually quite dangerous. And we practice that all the time. So sometimes that message will say, go to the whole line, not take off. Because remember, these bombers have nuclear weapons on them. So if there was not a real threat, we would only practice it. So we never took off. But we did taxi it.
So that was a single runway, all those planes?
All the planes on one runway. It's called a MITO, minimum interval takeoff, 12 seconds apart. And we practice that too. That means I'm 12 seconds behind the P-52 or whatever's in front of me, and we all roll together on takeoff roll. pretty dangerous. What if someone aborts, loses an engine? There were procedures for that, but it was very dangerous. They did lose the B-52 at Bayford Air Force Base when it was a SAF base due to weight turbulence, because you can imagine all the rough air from the jet wash and the weight turbulence. And I can tell you, you read your airspeed indicator, it's going 20 knots back and forth because of all that rough air. So that's how we did it on alert. It was exercised and it was recorded, and to not meet your timing or to have a problem that was your fault was very serious. And the deterrence of our triad had to be such that the Russians mainly, believe it or not, we included China and North Korea way back then. Some of the missions included that. So nobody got a free ride in the world when we pulled over. There were options for everything you can imagine. Even a reserve force for second and third strike. Also, if you think about it, nuclear combat, think about the timing of it. Everybody says the button gets pushed and then poof, everybody's gone. Well, it's not that easy. How long do you think it takes for a B-52 to fly to Russia?
Many hours.
Many hours. How long do you think an ICBM takes to get here?
30 minutes.
Roughly 30 minutes. You don't fall here. He sat in a rocket hole. And ran a rocket. And the submarines. What's their timing?
Hour.
Depends on where they are. So, what do you think Russia's going to look like when B-52s finally get there? You think maybe all the defenses are knocked out already? So think about the timing, and there was a plan for all of this. It's not that easy. So it is not a suicide mission, and there were divert bases. So everyone said, oh, it's a suicide mission. Well, not necessarily. But anyway, I'll give that to you. Any questions so far?
Now, when the units are paired in SAC, and you've got B-52s taking off with KC-135s, do they fly in formation? If so, how far?
No. Good question. Every sortie has a different flight plan. And you may, if you're a tanker, you maybe made it to a bomber from Barksdale. There's no rhyme or reason, at least you are not necessarily made it to any bomber in March. So you have your own flight plan, your own altitude. You put in thermal curtains because flash blindness was a big concern, right? The base is going to get blown up. And one of the long-range effects of nuclear weapons is flash blindness. They took it very seriously. They had special goggles and thermal curtains. Both B-52s and 135s. So you had your mission. That was your mission, and you were to conduct it. And you went to the ARCT, Air Refueling Control Point, and waited for your receiver. And you were given a discrete frequency to contact him, and he has that information. You know, somebody may go northeast, somebody may go northwest. So, no, you're not in formation. Yes.
Backing up just a little bit. How come only 66 KC-10s were requisitioned?
Money. Just like the B-2, you know, we had some stuff that's expensive. I do know the KC-10 program, they really regret that.
That they didn't build more?
Yeah. The Pegasus is supposed to replace, it's going to replace the E model 135, which is not here today. We fly the R model with the new improved high bypass fan engines. The same engines that are on the Boeing 737 that I flew for Alaska Airlines. 24,000 pounds of thrust each. Of thrust. And they're quiet. And they burn half as much fuel. Any other question?
You alluded to problems with 767 conversion, tanker conversion?
Yes. Actually, people are in jail over that. There was a lot of bribery between Boeing and the DOD to the program is over 4 years behind schedule and way up in cost. And there was a lot of bribery going on. And now they're having problems with the boom system, and I don't know exactly, but they are having a lot of problems that should have been discovered many years ago, and they're very angry about it. But they are coming online now. There are a few bases that have them. I'm not sure which ones yet. Any other questions? For what it's worth, almost 800 tanker KC-135s a day, 800 B-52s, 1 for 1. 400 are left today. Only 76 B-52H models remain. We actually destroyed a little over 300 B-52s in the salt talks. They destroyed their bombers too. We kind of wish, we have a severe bomber shortage today in the United States, severe. We didn't do enough B-2s either. Any other questions? Excellent.
I got it.
Okay, the cockpit of the 135A model, and this is not our airplane. We do have one out here. Last time I did this presentation a few weeks ago, I was able to say to all of you, in another hour, the airplane out here is open, and Doug Berger, the boom operator, and myself will be out here and show you around and take pictures, so that really would be nice. And now it's cooler, we're going to be doing more of that. It's a basic 707. If you ever look inside Boeing 727, the 3-engine version airliner, very popular, very similar. No reverse thrust. And it weighed just over 300,000 pounds. There were no oral warnings on it. Now, when they designed it, they made two big design fatal errors in designing it. The water injection, which puts out all that extra thrust to take off, you had Whittaker valves, that means the throttle opened them up. After the pumps were running to pressurize the lines, they were big hydraulic pumps. And they put 2 engines on one side on one pump and 2 engines, 1, 2, 3, and 4 on another pump. So guess what? If you lose one pump, you just lost a lot of thrust on one side. They'll put you in a 2-engine on one side, dangerous situation with a very high inflated control speed. Then they finally got wise and they modified it. 1 pump, 1 and 4, and 2 and 3. Water loss is very common. I've had a lot of aborted takeoffs at high speed even because of the water loss with that long takeoff roll. The other thing, it had a manual rudder. This does not have hydraulic flight controls, which make it easier, right? With the control surface today, everything's hydraulic or fly-by-wire. So, the Dash 1, which I have over here, says if you lose an engine and you go around, your in-flight, it requires 180 pounds of rudder force to control the airplane. That means 2 pilots need to stomp on that rudder. And we practice that in instructor school. You got to stomp on it, it's very hard. And that means, you know, it'll roll over on you and you'll crash. And they had that happen. So they put a power rudder in, now they have that. So flying this airplane was very basic. Now, there was no flight engineer. I do want to point out, this is the fuel panel, located right under the landing gear handle. You see the throttles there. These are all fuel tanks. There's one behind the throttles. Holds 155,000 pounds of fuel, or roughly 24,000 gallons. And we would offload it at the rate of 1,000 gallons a minute rate of flow to a large airplane. You would actually get a pressure disconnect when you go to the fuel pump. You overfill and you get a pressure disconnect. It shuts off. So this did it too. Basically, you see the engines. Now, this would normally be on a flight engineer's panel because you got to add up all these gauges. And see these valves? The only pumps you can offload fuel or receiver are this forward and this aft. So you have to get fuel from these tanks down and the center tank forward in order to complete the offload if it took a lot. That meant no flight engineer, co-pilots on the radio, a very high pilot workload, very high. And if you give away too much fuel because you misadded and you're in the middle of an ocean, guess what? You don't, that's your fuel. You either burn it or give it away, unlike KC-97. I've been in that position in the Atlantic. I had to divert. I was going to Spain and diverted in England because we gave away too much. It wasn't my fault, it's co-pilot's fault. But generally the co-pilot would do that. The boom pod. That's not here. Normally he would say something. A little chin strap. You have a stick in your right hand and a lever in your left hand that controls the telescoping of the pipe. And the rotavators are just little black flight controls on the tip of the boom, if I like an airplane. And I was an instructor pilot, so in instructor school I did learn how to make some contacts, so I did learn a little bit about it, so I know more about it. Boom operator is an enlisted position. We other crew members are officers. It's been said it's one of the most responsible enlisted position in the military because basically the boom operator is in charge back there. He's the eyes and the ears. He tells the receiver in and out, and you better correct. The tanker pilot's job is to fly a very smooth airplane. And the skill of air refueling is to be smooth. Now, I did air refueling as a tanker pilot, and I was a receiver pilot. You know, the 141B also can take fuel, so I did both ends. So, if I'm pumping 1,000 gallons a minute at 6,000 pounds, that means I'm getting lighter, and the receiver's getting heavier. That means I gotta come off the tower, and he or she has got air power. And that's the skill, and you better do it smoothly. A receiver, I can tell every movement that the tanker pilot makes, whether he just adds a little power, I can feel it. You just, I'm stable and whatever. There are pilot corrector lights in the front of the tanker. These are LEDs on the yard model today, so they're a little easier to see. The operator controls them, and you can see you got the U and the D and the F and the A. Up, down, forward, aft. There are no lights left and right laterally, assuming you're going to stay in the center line. Remember that boom has limits, and if you exceed them, it's an automatic disconnect. Otherwise, you'll rip the boom off. So at night, you kind of depend on those lights, and you're shooting for the green captain bars, green, and then you're in this spot. And the boom operator will flash the red, telling you come forward, go down. We will do that manually. Once the contact is made, then it's all automatic with the boom. All right, in order to air refuel, you got to hook up with your receiver, and there's several ways to do it. Most common is this, pole point parallel. Very often, the tanker takes off from one base and the receiver takes off from another base. And you are scheduled to be at a track, and they're published tracks all over the country. Actually, they're all over the world. They're published with the coordinates for the ARIP, initial point, ARCP, control point. Tanker goes to the ARCP, and it is that crew's job to plan their flight to arrive a few minutes before the ARCT, control time. Same thing with the receiver. He needs to plan his flight to be at the IP, and we talk to each other. Tanker is orbiting, and then the tanker will go towards the receiver, offset one turn diameter, which is often 20 miles at that speed, and then turn in front of the receiver. Today computers do it because there are no navigators like the our model. So ideally, you roll out a mile in front of the receiver, and then get a visual. And sometimes the weather is bad, you don't get a visual, but when you do, we would flash our lights just to make our visibility better, and then he would come up, and then the boom operator clears it in the contact position. That's kind of how they do it. Now, often, see that point? We're not flight planning straight line, because if we are running late or early, we want to be able to adjust our point. If we're running late, then we'll just bypass this point and go straight. Call it timing triangle. If you were the pilot of Air Force One and you're graded on having that plane in front of the band or whatever to the second, and the way they do it is they plan timing triangles. That's how they control their time, so that they're there right to the minute. During Vietnam, air refueling was common, particularly with fighters. They would often take off at a full bomb load, and they couldn't carry the full fuel with all those bombs. They would hit the tank before going into combat. Well, during Vietnam, and Desert Storm, and a lot of special operations, there would be an anchor, very similar to what we just saw. A GCI controller would control the receiver and tell him when to go towards the ARCP while the tanker orbits. Rather than fly down the whole track, you're always in an orbit. So once the receiver hooks up, you're constantly in an orbit pattern. And that's mostly done with fighters, not big airplanes. That's how they did it in Vietnam. They had named them colors. And if you were a fighter, you knew where they were. If you were low on fuel, you would call GCI and you press the enter. Basically, it's a flying gas station. The tankers are just there, and they stay there until they're low on fuel and have to go home. So nobody shows up, they'll stay there longer. And that's when they got Osama bin Laden. I guarantee you, there was an anchor orbit set up with virtually every combat plane you can think of ready to go in there and assist. And we did that during the Iranian hostage raid, which I actually got involved in a little bit. That's how we do it. We got all our air assets ready to go with full fuel tanks, very close to the action. And most of these operations are classified, where they are, how they work. Throw in drogue. Okay, I just talked about moon refueling. And the other half, especially the Navy and a lot of foreign countries, use a probe and drogue. This is a drogue. The probe sticks out of his wing. This is an F-18 Navy. And the Air Force does it. KC-135s can attach that drogue with many fighters who use it. The big difference between the two, the fighter pilot here, his job is to control his airplane to stick his probe into the drogue. That means he's the one who does the contact. The easier way is to just fly under the tanker in the green lights and let the boom operator do it. So this is not as easy, and it had more accidents with the probe and drogue. Okay, now we're going to see one more video, and I'll talk about one more thing, the FR-71. So let's see this. This is from the receiver side, from a B-52H. Now I want you to notice his control movements, how he's really moving that thing to stay very still. Big airplanes, when you air refuel, actually, I never air refueled a fast plane. I flew T-38s, but never air refueled with it, but I know a lot of fighter pilots. It's much easier to fly a fighter like an F-4 or F-15. The reason being, these planes are big, and they don't turn on a dime. They don't do anything on a dime. If you need to go forward, you gotta wait. You have a little power, but you gotta wait. You don't get instant thrust. If I'm in a T-38, I can grab a handful of throttles and I can be 100 miles an hour like that kind of acceleration. And I can do that behind the boom. I can slow down easily. So these big planes, you gotta lead everything you do. It's not as easy. And you'll notice what did you notice something like that? So. Right, the last topic I'll talk about. Actually, the second highest priority for the KC-135 during the Cold War was the SR-71 mission. Now, they had 56 Q-model tankers, modified A models, same engine, same cylinder power and all that, to handle the SR-71. The SR-71 was a very big part of that SIOP alert, Single Integrated Operation Plan. And basically that's the intelligence that they gathered both by camera and electronically went to our B-52s for safe passage so that the electronic warfare officer knew what frequencies to jam because they would change every week. So they also had a big Navy mission, particularly in the Barents Sea out of Mildenhall with Russian subs and Russian ships. So they had a very big mission. Of course, they were based at Okinawa, and their main base was Field Air Force Base, nice Stratotanker. Now, I did fly the Q-Tanker when I was at Mildenhall and Okinawa. They were part of the tanker task force. You could use them for a normal refueling mission, but you could not use an A model to refuel a SR-71. Surprisingly enough, the KC-10 they use today can do both. I think I don't know how they do it, they only have 2 tanks for that. Because the SR-71 requires separate fuel, JP7. Long story short, goes Mach 3, skin heats up to 1,000 degrees. If you had fuel in there, it would blow up. And the whole airplane is basically a fuel tank. It is a fuel tank. It is not, does not have bladder tanks inside of it. That's why it leaks so much, I understand. So the JP7 is high flash point fuel. If I had a bucket of it and I had a charcoal lighter, it wouldn't light. It would only light with an explosion. That's why they created an explosion to start the engine. So that JP7 had to be in separate tanks because the KC-135 could not burn it, and it didn't want to mix it with JP4. So it also had long-range communications equipment because the SR-71, especially if he's coming from high altitude Mach 3, you need to start talking to him almost 1,000 miles away to start getting up for this air refueling. He's going to have to descend and slow down. It's called hot air refueling. Cold air refueling is when you top off the SR-71 right after takeoff. So the Q model was designed for that, and I don't know what the Q models are doing today. They're probably back in the normal fleet. They are modified with the engines on the R model, though, I know that. Questions on the SR-71? I know some pilots, and I read all the books, even the flight manual, particularly air refueling. Any questions on it? I probably answered. And that's an R model. You can see the engines. And those are the F-15s. And of course, when you're doing fighters, you're almost always in formation. Generally, the right wing, you're waiting for your fuel. When you're done, you go on the left wing, and then you get your clearance to leave. Today, air traffic control-wise, when you refuel in the States, you need a clearance from air traffic control, LA Senate, whatever. And what that means is they'll say you're clear to conduct air refueling on AR3 Alpha Bravo. Alpha Bravo goes the other way. and you're clear of MARSA with the other airplane. MARSA means military assumes responsibility for separation of airplanes. That means if you guys run into each other, it's not my fault. But you can do whatever you want. And Carl's not here. The slides for him. He normally turns his lights. And he's been at the museum here. He flew the B-111. And he actually flew the next one, the F-100, probe and drogue. So he will speak about refueling with both the boom and the probe and drogue and tell you what I just told you, that the boom was easier. And that's the last slide. Any questions?
Could you, with the fighters, can you do it with the probe or with the...
Yes. Some are dual. Some are only, I'm trying to think of which ones. The first operation I ever got involved in when I was new to tankers, I was a co-pilot at Barksdale, was the Yom Kippur War. I was just barely there, and we were ferrying fighters to Israel. And it's just 73, okay. And our job was to refuel A4s, Navy A4s. They wanted F4s, but F4s are more expensive, so the United States says, we don't have any to give you A4s. And they used probe and drogue. In fact, we got one outside that did it. It's center line. One of the problems with a lot of these fighters, fuel spray gets in the inlets. That means it gets in the air conditioning system. Imagine yourself in a little cockpit with fuel burns your skin in effect. And that was a real problem because basically before we disconnected, we had to empty the fuel in the line to include that. But for my memory, which the A7 was one, A7 Corsair had probe and drogue. The probe actually on the right side, actually you push the button and it would blank out. And you can start it because it's drag. And it also was able to take fuel from the moon. Any questions?
Yeah, with boom operator training, was there a requirement for them to operate under adverse weather conditions? Because that would seem like a different animal doing that in choppy weather.
Okay, first of all, visibility-wise was not the boom operators. He could always see the receiver. So that wasn't a problem. You're talking turbulence. And you know what? I don't think I've ever canceled a refueling for turbulence. We've refueled in some pretty good turbulence. In fact, I got mad at a flight attendant once with Alaska Airlines. It was a little light chopper that she wanted to sit down. And I think, come on, it's not that bad. I said, at least they're refueling this stuff. Or worse, anyway.
How many tankers do we have?
135s, just under 400. 800 were built. They actually lost a lot of them because of those problems I told you about earlier. There was a lot of accidents. 66 KC-10s. I don't know about the Pegasus yet. They plan on building a lot of them if they were to get it going. Again, same amount as the B-52 because it was almost 1 for 1. It's sad. No other questions?
Is it true that the new plans for the Air Force One aren't going to be able to be refueled?
The new one, how about the current one? During 9/11, President Bush was airborne all day long, right? And he had air refuelings on 9/11. So, yes, any plane today will have air refueling, even the new one. But the old Air Force one you saw in the Reagan Library, no.
It doesn't seem like there's very much room for improvement. Is it just time on the airframe that they're replacing with the new ones?
Well, 135s are from 1955. They've been re-winged, re-engined. The R model has computer instruments, glass cockpits, just like some of these airliners. They're going as far as they can. They are limited. They did jack up the weight on the R model from what I flew in the A. They hold more fuel. They're old, and you just have to place them in the pipeline.
Are there any plans of having, during the fuel transfer, both aircraft being flown by the same computer?
Ooh. I don't know. Well, I'm an old pilot, so computers. You all know about 737 MAX, and all that, all the problems. They generate their own problems. So, I don't know, maybe they will. They're definitely thinking about one pilot. Making these planes so computerized that you put a qualified person in the right seat, but he's not necessarily a pilot or her. They call him a systems operator, kind of like a flight engineer, to basically do those flow. I know Airbus is really working on that. And it's all about cost and money. And of course, the world has a severe pilot shortage, particularly of experienced pilots, and it's severe. And Airbus and Boeing are trying to design planes now that anybody could learn to fly. And as you saw with the MAX, you get an experienced pilot, they can't handle routine emergencies. So I don't know where that's going.
Did you know much about Soviet or Russian air refueling capabilities? What were they like?
Yes. Okay, I just told you how many tankers we have. They're based all around the world. Wrong. We can move airplanes. It's called a tanker-to-tanker bridge. Russia and China today, and I looked this up, they have less than 40 each operational. There's different varieties of them. Basically, they're converted bombers, and they all exclusively use a hose, probe type that stows into the wing. The Pegasus is going to have that capability too, one on each wing. We do two at once, but again, it's a drogue refueling. We do still maintain a monopoly in air refueling. No doubt about it. That is one of the reasons China is going after the South China Sea in a big way, making these islands. They know that any conflict, our tankers, if they're allowed to operate, mean they can't do anything about it. They can't, we just have too much air power, even our carriers. So that's kind of what those islands are about, to get rid of tankers. They've even said that publicly, because they know how much, everything we do has air refueling. It's so integrated. If you're a pilot in the military today, you're ingrained in that from day one.
Yeah, good grief, I lost my train of thought, sorry.
Early on, you mentioned something about a lead airplane lighting up the radar with the trailing airplane, SR-71, turning on their sensors. The lead airplane being a tanker?
Oh, no. RC-135 is a reconnaissance ELINT airplane with highly side-scanning radars. It's a very top-secret mission. They're mostly operated out of Eielson and in Europe. But they would very often do a buddy mission with an SR-71, because what happens when the SR-71 flies over the border? And by the way, the SR-71 never flew into Russia. We learned a lesson with Francis Power. We didn't need to. They had side-scanning cameras that go about hundreds of miles inside. They didn't. They were very careful. And that's true. So, but anytime they flew along the border, then the enemy would turn on all their, as they said, their missiles, and then we would record their frequencies, because evidently when you get those frequencies, you can jam them. When you don't have to search for them, go right to them. And they changed. That's why it was an ongoing mission to keep current information. I used to air refuel RC-135s out of Eielson, and we would literally fly over the North Pole. And it was radio silent refueling. That means we did everything by light signals. If you look at the globe from the top, over the North Pole, you're in the northern border of Russia.
Two questions. What's the speed of the fuel through the line? And two, in terms of refueling protocol, when does the receiver make a decision that I have to refuel? Is it a protocol that is set in concrete, or is it a pilot decision?
It's for 15 pounds of fuel pressure. We have 4 pumps. Max flow rate was 6.6 thousand pounds a minute, 1,000 gallons. 1 gallon weighs 6.6 thousand pounds, or 1,000 gallons. So that was the rate of flow. It was very high. Fighters didn't take 4 pumps, so 2 pumps, you cut it in half. The SR-71, the fuel was so critical to them that the backseater, the reconnaissance systems officer, monitored the fuel flow. He acted like a flight engineer, and he would tell the tanker, all right, cut 2 pumps off, because they didn't want a pressure disconnect. Because he's not fooling around. He needs to end refuel with his full tanks. So he didn't want a pressure disconnect, because that's generally what it is. It's just like in a gas station. If you keep pumping, it'll just disconnect. So about 15 psi is the fuel pressure. There's a gauge in certain airplanes. The fuel line, diameter like that. Next time you come to our museum, we do have a boom in the main hangar with the signal coil, the electronic system that talks to the receiver system, so that you can disconnect when you're out of limits, and you can see the toggle. So we do have that set up here in the main hangar. Any question? Did that answer that?
Well, the second one was in terms of the receiver refueling.
Oh, okay.
Who makes that decision? Is it set protocol, or is it a pilot decision?
It's flight plan. It's all planned in advance. When you take a fighter across the ocean, you have a point and you say, I'm going to give you 6,000 pounds of fuel here. Of course, they always want more. That's how I got in trouble all the time. Hey, you got more? It's all planned. Emergency refueling is called a bootleg refueling. Hey, I got an airplane over here with an emergency fuel, and if you declare an emergency and you can hook up, then you can do that. But you've got to do a lot of paperwork. Another question?
If there was an in-flight emergency, can you land with a full tank, or you got to double?
Okay, the 135, you would lighten it up. Did not have reverse thrust. It had 4 rotor brakes. Certain models, the later models had 5. Airliners have 7 and 8. So the stopping power was terrible, and they would heat up. If you did a max effort stop, you had hot brakes or you'd blow tires. I was in a high-speed abort to our home in Spain near Madrid. We aborted for loss of water at 150 knots, and we blew most of the tires. Had a wheel well fired. So, yeah, it was terrible. When you landed, you used the whole runway. I don't remember, there is a landing weight. You can exceed a landing weight in any airplane in an emergency. They have to do an inspection. Or it includes airliners too. Any other question? 141 that I flew though was great. You could land that at max weight, good reverse, 7 rotor brakes. That thing will stop on the dime. Any other questions?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.